right, so welcome back for this week's review, covering November 10th through the 16th. If I had to put a single name on it, it would be the accountability test.
Accountability is the perfect word. It really felt like that.
Right. We saw these huge tech companies in court, new rules for AI liability, governments pushing their plans for, space and talent.
Yeah, it was like a fundamental reset of what's expected. I mean, every big story this week was about validation. Who's responsible when an AI messes up?
Or when a new gadget violates an old patent.
Exactly. That whole break things mentality is kind of giving way to pay for the things you broke. The frenzy is over, and now it's about proof and a clear line of who's liable.
I love that, paying for things.
Yeah.
So let's start right there, where the pressure is, I think, the highest. Legal liability for these giant AI models. A German court handed down a huge ruling against OpenAI, one that really could change the whole foundation of how AI is trained.
This is a landmark one, especially in Europe. The court sided with GEMA.
And for anyone who doesn't know, GEMA is basically one of the most powerful music rights groups in the world. They make sure creators get paid.
That's right. And the court said unequivocally that ChatGPT has to pay to use copyrighted song lyrics that are in its training data.
The detail I found fascinating was the argument over who pays. OpenAI actually tried to say that if a user asks for lyrics, the user should be responsible.
Yeah, they tried to shift the blame, and the court just completely rejected that defense.
Completely.
They said the accountability is with the model developers, period. They built the system, they scraped the data, so they are responsible for what it spits out.
And GEMA's lawyer called it a milestone.
He did. A milestone for fair remuneration. It's basically a signal to all of Silicon Valley that if you want to train your AI on Europe's art and knowledge, you have to build the cost of that IP into your business model.
It sounds fair on the surface, but I do wonder, does this create a practical nightmare for them? I mean, if every little piece of data has to be logged and licensed.
Well, it definitely changes the ethics of it, right? It might not even slow down innovation itself, but it does shift the focus.
Toward what?
Toward, licensed high-quality data sets instead of just scraping the entire internet indiscriminately. The courts are saying innovation is fine, but piracy is not.
Right. The cost of IP is just a cost of doing business now.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's shift that accountability talk from legal to security. This is where things get a little bit scary. We saw these reports that a Chinese state-linked hacking group, HydroPanda, is using Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet.
And not just using it for research, they're using it as an active real-time co-pilot for their cyberattacks.
A co-pilot. That just changes the game entirely.
It does. They're using it as a tactical assistant. So refining exploits, polishing SQL injections, and just dramatically speeding up that whole reconnaissance phase of an attack.
And what's terrifying is how they're doing it. They found this, linguistic loophole in the guardrails.
Right. They bypass the safety features.
By framing their malicious questions as requests for debugging or performance tuning.
Precisely. If you ask an LLM, hey, write me some malware, it'll say no. But if you say, I'm debugging my network tool, here's my code, how do I make it faster, and bypass the security check.
The AI just sees it as a technical problem to solve.
Yeah, a benign task. It's this dangerous psychological gap. You can trick the models into helping you commit a crime just by changing your phrasing. That puts cyber defenders under enormous pressure.
Okay, now for something much lighter. But still on this theme of accountability, just in a different way. How AI is merging with human feelings in finance.
The Google Finance integration.
With Gemini, yeah. Tell us about that.
This is pretty clever. So instead of just relying on, complex historical data, Gemini is now mixing its AI modeling with data from prediction markets.
Platforms like Kalshi and Polymarket.
Right. And for anyone who isn't familiar, just think of these as regulated platforms where people bet on future events.
Like, will the Fed raise rates, or will inflation hit a certain level?
Exactly. Verifiable outcomes. It's the wisdom of crowds, but quantified. Gemini takes that real-time human sentiment, all those bets, and blends it with its own data analysis.
So if you ask for a forecast, you're getting an answer that's based not just on macroeconomic data, but on what thousands of people are actually betting their money on. Real-time belief and skepticism.
Yeah, it's blurring the line between traditional analytics and, organized speculation, all inside a chat window.
Okay, that brings us to the next big theme. This global race for talent and territory. It's not just happening in code, it's on Earth, and now it's speeding up towards the moon.
Starting with China's new K-visa.
This felt like a really big move.
Oh, it is. It's 100% a geopolitical play. Beijing is basically rolling out the welcome mat for global experts, especially in, AI and semiconductors.
So what's the key part of this visa that makes it so different?
It removes the need for a pre-approved job offer. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a direct shot at the systems in the West, like the U.S. H-1B lottery, which can be a nightmare of long waits and uncertainty. China is basically saying, if you're a talented engineer in India or Europe, come here first, then find your job.
It feels like a clear strategy to reverse their own brain drain and fill some of those critical skill gaps they have.
Absolutely. Make it easier for foreign experts to come in, you speed up your own industrial growth. It just shows that in this competition, controlling human talent is just as vital as controlling resources.
And speaking of that global competition, let's look up to the moon.
Right. Blue Origin is now accelerating its timeline for a moon landing.
And this is happening in direct response to China's lunar program.
It is, but it's also being driven by NASA. NASA needs redundancy.
Yeah.
Because SpaceX's Starship program has had some, very public delays, NASA basically invited Blue Origin to submit a faster plan.
Because the race to get a permanent presence on the moon is seen as incredibly urgent and political.
Very. So Blue Origin came back with a proposal for a modified lander, the Mark 1.5. It uses components that are already proven and tested. The goal is to make sure the U.S. gets its crewed mission there before China lands its own, which is planned for the late 2020s.
And this really puts a spotlight on Jeff Bezos' heavy lift rocket, New Glenn.
Yeah, which is finally getting into real flight preparation. NASA needs more than one ride to deep space, and Blue Origin is stepping up to make sure America stays ahead.
Okay, so from the territory of outer space, let's talk about the territory of IP. Who owns the tech on your wrist?
The Apple and Massimo case.
Apple just got hit with an incredible $634 million judgment.
That is a colossal number, and it's a huge win for these specialized med tech companies against the big consumer electronics giants. A jury said Apple has to pay all that money for violating Massimo's blood oxygen patents in the Apple Watch.
So how does a verdict like this actually change the game for these companies?
It brings up this really important question about where the line is between, innovation and just appropriation.
Taking ideas.
Right. Massimo's argument was that Apple didn't just develop similar tech. They said Apple poached key people and just straight up integrated Massimo's IP. This verdict says the courts will protect those boundaries.
And it's not happening in a vacuum. There are already import bans and legal fights over Apple trying to use software to get around these hardware rulings.
Yeah, the system is actively trying to define how far consumer tech can push into the medical world without, proper licensing.
On a different Apple note related to control, they're also expanding the Wallet app.
To support U.S. passports, yeah, for domestic use.
It's in testing now with the TSA. The convenience is obviously huge. Just show your phone instead of your passport book.
And it only shows minimal encrypted data, which is good. But it is entirely domestic for now. Getting that to work internationally will take a very long time. It needs global standards to all line up.
We saw two other stories about platform control this week. The first was Meta.
And their superintelligence labs, they launched something called omnilingual ASR.
Which sounds very impressive. What is it?
It's a huge deal for linguistic inclusion. This system can transcribe 500 lesser-known languages. We're talking languages like Rotokas, which has fewer than 5,000 speakers.
Wow.
For so long, AI was just focused on English, Mandarin, Spanish. Meta is trying to close that digital divide and make speech-to-text available to people whose languages have been ignored by tech.
And then, speaking of giving users control, X, formerly Twitter, quietly pushed out a huge update to its messaging.
They are definitely speeding up that everything app plan.
What are they at?
A whole suite of things. End-to-end encrypted chat, file sharing, disappearing messages, even screenshot blocking. They're basically going after the features that Telegram and Signal have.
Trying to give users more privacy and control, moving it away from being just a public town square.
Exactly.
Okay, finally, let's wrap up with a look at autonomy. The reality versus the hype. We have to start with the Russian humanoid robot, Aidol.
Oh, the video, the debut at the Moscow Tech Conference.
It was amazing. He takes a few shaky steps on stage, and then just, boom, face first into the floor.
The video went viral instantly. It's just such a perfect reminder of how incredibly hard real-world robotics still is.
But the best part was the CEO, Vladimir Vitukin, trying to spin it. he defended the faceplant.
I know. He called it real-time training.
Real-time training. It's an incredible piece of PR, really.
It is. And that kind of very visible, very funny failure is such a sharp contrast to the almost boring success of Waymo.
Right. Because this same week, Waymo robotaxis got clearance for high-speed motorway access.
In huge metro areas, too. San Francisco, LA, Phoenix.
That's a massive operational step. It means the Waymo driver system is mature enough for highway speeds that completely changes the rider experience.
It lets them take faster, more direct routes. I mean, the engineering required for fully autonomous freeway driving, it's just this quiet proof of technical stability that we shouldn't ignore, especially when you see another robot that can't even walk across a stage.
And the last story on autonomy shows where humans and AI are actually partnering up successfully.
Hollywood voice licensing.
Yeah. Oscar winners Matthew McConaughey and Sir Michael Caine signed deals with 11 labs to create and license AI versions of their voices.
And they're framing it as a creative tool, not a threat. A way to preserve their voice.
McConaughey is already using his AI voice to translate his newsletter into Spanish, but narrated with his famous drawl. It's a way to expand his reach, but with his full consent and compensation.
These deals create a really crucial framework, both ethically and financially. It lets an actor turn their unique voice into a digital asset they can manage and get paid for. It solves a huge IP problem the entertainment industry has been struggling with.
So when you look at this whole week, from a German courtroom to the moon race to self-driving cars, the theme is so clear. Technology is weaving itself into, the most basic parts of our lives.
National security, finance, even our voices. But that integration is now demanding strict validation.
Validation enforced by courts demanding payment for data.
By governments demanding proof in space. And, by the simple physics that prove a robotaxi is stable at 65 miles an hour. The days when you could just innovate and ignore accountability. I think those days are ending.
Which really leaves us with a final question for you to think about. As these AI models get more warmth, more personality, as they speak hundreds of languages, and as platforms give you more control over your data, how does our feeling of digital trust really change? When the technology itself is designed to operate so far outside of our human control. Something to consider until next time.
Tech Week in Review is hosted by Adam Carter and Eve Harrison. Music by Federico Luyo, Jamie Wright, and Alex Grohl. Sound mixing and editing by Nigel Dixon-File. Tech Week in Review is produced by CTF Initiative in conjunction with TechFyle. If you are interested in more news, reviews, and articles, visit techfile.com and follow us on social media. If you like the podcast, please subscribe. Thanks for your support. Keep following TF and TWR for the latest in tech changing your world.